the big Shimano scandal. If you haven't seen already, Shimano have come out and put out a product recall on their two-piece cranksets. Now, what I mean by two-piece is not the fact that the drive side and the non-drive side are separate. It means on the drive side, some of their cranks were cast out of two pieces and then bonded together. We've had this situation for a number of years where those two pieces have debonded, split open, sometimes quite dangerously, but more often they've just caused a creak and an annoyance, and they've had to go through various processes of getting them warranted. Now, if you have had your cranks in warranty, it's not been a problem. Shimano have been replacing them, although through the whole COVID thing, there was very little stock and we were just hunting around for parts, so people were waiting for ages and took matters into their own hands and just brought alternatives just to get riding again during that glorious time. But if you bought something second hand and you had this problem, you didn't have any recourse. It was just like you just had to buy a new one. And now this product recall is essentially saying that without a receipt, without any sort of questions asked, if you see these problems, then you can get your crankset replaced. So I've got some information up here on the computer. I'm going to sort of run you through what we know so far, how I think it's going to affect things. I'm not sure it's going to affect things too much, but we'll see. Well, I'm keen to get your opinion. So let's flip into this and see what we can learn. So first off, we got this email from Madison, which is the UK distributor for Shimano, a big safety notice, and telling us what you can do. So it's given us some instructions about how to inspect them and what to do in that case. They've even set up some dedicated service numbers so that we can directly call someone and get the situation dealt with. So there's also a YouTube video as well, which is actually public and I have shared on the channel before, so you can see the actual official announcement from Madison. Basically, the video is quite good. It goes into quite a lot of detail about where to exactly look, the points where they've seen these stress sort of fractures before, where they've seen the debonding, the early signs of the evidence. It's the sort of thing that in a bike shop we've picked up already, and how we've dealt with it depends on each individual customer's circumstances. So if it's in warranty, we've replaced them, got them sorted on warranty. If they haven't, then we've kind of done our best for them. And I'll get into this later as to how we've addressed this in the past and how we might address it going forwards. But for now, that video is up and you can go and check it out for yourself. So click through it. It comes to this. This is instructions for us. It just gives us all these numbers that we can call directly and get a direct line to someone to talk specifically about this issue, which I think is pretty cool. Now, here is the video. I'll link this below. This is the one that's come directly from Shimano. So if you don't want to get to a authorized Shimano service center, you can do this yourself and then go decide whether or not you want to go to an authorized Shimano center to get this sorted. You do have to go to a Shimano service center to do this, apparently, and there aren't lots of them. So, for instance, we aren't actually a Shimano service center. I'll come on to that again in a second. These guys are in our area, but you can find this again. I'll put these links below. I don't know why we can't deal with it, because we've been dealing with it for all this time, and I think if you came to us and you had the problem, we would happily be able to sort it out for you. I think that's just something they've said on the video. I think in reality, any bike shop will be with an account with Madison should be able to sort this out for you. The reason why I don't think this is going to be massively important, you see, this issue is normally picked up fairly early by us here in bike shops, and when we've seen it, it's normally on bikes which have been fairly poorly maintained, ridden through all sorts of weather, and there's already signs of corrosion on other parts of the bike. Not every single case, but most of the time, that's what we've seen. And yeah, we can normally identify the issue. We can inform the customer and give them a couple of options. We say, have you got the original receipt? If you have, we'll take care of the warranty for you and we'll get a new one sent out. It's normally because someone's come in with something creaking. They think it's their bottom bracket and it's not. It's just the crank is delaminated in a certain way. We've spotted it. It's not the bottom bracket that's creaking, it's their crankset, and sorted it. In the past, where it's been customers who have brought a second-hand bike or it's out of warranty, and we've had this issue. Normally by this time, the point where the cranks are starting to show signs of delamination is normally at the point where things like chain rings are already starting to wear out as well. And I've got this up actually just to show you. This is the sort of the chat that we have with quite a lot of customers. So right now, price matching a Shimano crankset on Merlin is £175. But the price of a single chainring is 121. Add that into the price of that, so we're up to 140 quid for chain rings. And to be fair, most customers are like, you know, the chain rings need doing anyway. It's a relatively small cost to pay to get a new crankset. It comes with a new warranty. I'll have a receipt for that crankset, and job's been done. The only thing that's going to change with this product recall is that we will just be able to send the whole crankset back and get a new crankset potentially. I'm not sure how they are going to work with things that are obviously worn and torn. Like if you've got a worn chainring, are you going to get a new crank back, but they're going to put your worn chain rings on? I'm not sure how that is going to work out. I guess time will tell. It'd be pretty insulting if you sent back a really worn out chainring and they just, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when that sort of stuff starts filtering through. So that's what's happened in the past, which means it hasn't really been a massive deal. We have only seen a couple of these sort of fail catastrophically in potentially dangerous situations. And I know that's happened other places. I don't think we're going to see the big class action lawsuits that Hambini is talking about. I think you'd have to be doing something quite specialist to cause them to fail catastrophically, like launching a big sprint on a bike that is already showing signs of corrosion. And I don't know if that really happens to that many people, if I'm completely honest. So I don't know how much it's going to change things. So anyway, quickly on the Shimano service centre, it does say in the instructions you have to go back to an authorised Shimano service centre, and it gives it lists and stuff here. We aren't listed on here, mostly because the Shimano service centre is a bit of a joke, to be fair, because they tend to select you for service centres based on how much money you spend with Madison rather than anything else. So we've applied to the programme and we just don't spend enough money with Madison. We only really buy Shimano and DT Swiss from them. We don't buy into the whole massive range. We're not a shop, you know, we're a specialist workshop, and that doesn't really compute with their stuff. So we've asked several times, but these sort of things go to bikes which sell, you know, the entire Madison range, which is huge, includes sunglasses and clothing and all sorts of stuff. So we are definitely not on their radar. It also means that you've got to go and complete loads of these e-learning modules, which, well, as you can see, I've done 8. This is really, really not the way that I learn and a lot of mechanics learn, in my opinion. It's all very dull e-learning, very slow to get started videos with stupid multiple choice things on the back end of them. And, you know, it's a little bit of a rant on how people learn, actually, because most mechanics are very practically minded. They like to have things in their hand and feel it, see it, and then get the information they need and learn as they go. Sort of, if you're a very academic person, you're probably not following the career of a very practical task. So we tend to find that when we're teaching mechanics, we've now had 3 successful apprentices, and we've taught hundreds of mechanics. The ones that are really, really successful are those very kinesthetic and visual learners, the ones that really can analyze a problem and like almost Rubik's Cube things together and make pieces of in their mind. The worst mechanics we've ever taught are the really academic ones, the ones that need information to be able to regurgitate. That's not really how mechanics works. And this is my bugbear with this, because most of my mechanics just prefer to have the thing in their hand and then go to the tech docs to get the fine detail. And the Shimano tech docs are fantastic, you know. So this is our process for learning. This is like the Shimano resources for mechanics is absolutely amazing. And just to give you a rundown, we find this significantly more useful than going through hours and hours of pointless e-learning. Is we want to just be able to have it in a hand, right? We'll go, right, what part do I need for that? What's the torque setting? Read these little notices, right, crack on. And this is exactly how most of our mechanics like to get their head around a new group set, is to have it in the hands, have this to hand. They can go through, they can see exactly what torque settings need to do, any of these sort of information, But, you know, we're not going to sit there and listen to hours and hours worth of e-learning, and they are really dull videos. They're just like, it's just painful to watch. They're so demotivating. And yeah, anyway, that's a little rant over as to the whole Shimano Tech Centre politics, I suppose. We've asked several times to do it, but I'm not about to make my mechanics sit down in front of a computer for hours and hours and hours doing that, when they can just get to the Shimano Tech Doc manuals and just learn what they need to learn very quickly and in the process that suits what's in front of them at the time. So anyway, there we go. That ended up being a bit of a rant about education, not necessarily all about the crank recall. So in short, just to summarize, you can visually inspect it yourself. The video is down below. If you've got any concerns, it's only going to be relevant if you show even the slightest signs of having any of those issues shown in that video. If you do, then there's a number to call, and they will advise you, so you don't necessarily have to travel to a Shimano service centre. If you do, Shimano service centres are there. I'm pretty sure that if you came to a specialist workshop like us, of which there are thousands all over the world of just solely specialist workshops, I am pretty sure that the Shimano distributor would be able to help them out as well. I think that's just something they've put in the video. And yeah, I don't know if it's going to be that much of a big deal, really. I think most of these cranksets are all pretty worn out. We don't see that many of them anymore. We're already starting to see the replacement cycle happen. I think probably Shimano have kept it under wraps for long enough that it's probably not going to be that much of an impact. What do you think? As always, get down in the comments, let me know, especially if you've inspected your crank, seen any signs, and you're going through the process yourself by calling those numbers. It'd be really interesting to know your experience. Okay, kind of hope that was useful. See you on the next one.